Mrs. Burling admonishes her husband, again saying, "Arthur," and we can see her socially superior attitude. Then the stage directions, as Mrs. Burling shows signs of interrupting, again emphasise Burling's need to dominate the conversation and be in control. "Yes, my dear, I know, I'm talking too much. But you youngsters just remember what I said. We can't let these Bernard Shaws and H.G. Wellses do all the talking." This is important because these are famous authors who predicted social change. Predicting disturbing claims. He believes that he knows everything. The alliteration of "you youngsters" emphasises his patronising tone, and you can see the allusion to these authors and their supposedly socialist mindset. "We hard-headed, practical businessmen must say something sometime." Again, we have this adjective, hard-headed, that describes Burling, where he essentially refers to his own capitalist and selfish mindset. Also note, "we've had experience." Here he is emphasising his knowledge, which creates the theme of old versus young, the generation gap. Mrs. Burling, rising, and the others rise. "Yes, of course, dear. Well, don't keep Gerald in here too long. Eric, I want you a minute." This is important because she is dismissive of him, again emphasising her own cold, callous nature. We can predict from her statement, "Eric, I want you a minute," that she wants to talk to him about his inappropriate behaviour at the dinner table. She and Sheila go out, as well as Eric, and Burling and Gerald are left alone. This is important, as exits and entrances play an important role in Inspector Calls. Here we can see that the dynamic between Burling and Gerald is immediately one of friendship and camaraderie, whereas Sheila and her mother are separated by gender, and Eric has some sort of tension between him and his father in their relationship. Priestley, throughout the entire section of Burling's speech, is attempting to build doubt around Burling's opinions. Therefore, when he has incredibly selfish and self-serving opinions later, the audience are immediately on side with Priestley and the inspector. Burling offers Gerald a cigar, then takes one for himself. He also offers the decanter of alcohol, again suggesting that Gerald help himself. Burling lights a cigar, and Gerald, who has lit a cigarette, helps himself to port, then pushing the decanter towards Burling. Here again we can see that Priestley deliberately uses props to emphasise the fact that Burling is trying to impress Gerald. It's also important because it emphasises the fact that Eric learns his frivolity from his father. Burling then says, "Thanks." Then the stage directions indicate "confidentially." "By the way, there's something I'd like to mention, in strict confidence. While we're by ourselves, I have an idea that your mother, Lady Croft, while she doesn't object to my girl, feels you might have done better for yourself socially." Here we can see there is evidence that Lady Croft and her husband are not happy. Lady Croft comes from old money, whereas the Burlings have acquired money. Therefore, the knighthood that Burling reveals in this section should put Lady Croft at ease. We can see that Burling is self-serving and that the marriage to Gerald, is for his own benefit. He's attempting to use his daughter as a pawn so he can climb up the social ladder. Note the fact that he says "in strict confidence" because he is attempting to brag in this section. Gerald is part of the aristocracy, so we can see the class divide, despite the fact that the Burlings are wealthy. Gerald, rather embarrassed, begins to murmur some dissent, but Burling checks him. Here we can see the social ineptitude and the lack of tact that Burling has. "No, Gerald, that's all right, don't blame her. She comes from an old country family," again emphasising that class divide. "Landed people, and so forth, and so it's only natural. But what I wanted to say is there's a fair chance that I might find my way into the next honours list. Just a knighthood, of course." Here we can see his bragging and his self-obsessed, vapid nature. However, he does understand class values, as emphasised through his self-satisfied tone. "Oh, I say, congratulations." "Thanks, But it's a bit too early for that, so don't say anything. But I've had a hint or two. You see, I was Lord Mayor here 2 years ago, when royalty visited us, and I've always been regarded as a sound, useful party man. So, well, I gather there's a very good chance of a knighthood, so long as we behave ourselves, don't get into the police court or start a scandal, eh? And he laughs complacently. Priestley highlights through the use of Lord Mayor how superficial the class system was. It's also important because we can see here the theme of the importance of appearances and how important reputation is in Brumley society. There's proleptic irony at the end here, where we have as long as we behave ourselves, don't get into the police court or start a sort of scandal, eh? Foreshadowing the events to follow. Gerald laughs and says, "You seem to be a nice, well-behaved family." There's irony here, used by Priestley, as in fact they are anything but. This could be a polite reference from Gerald or an allusion to the scandal to follow. Burling says then, "We think we are. So if that's the only obstacle, sir, I think you might as well accept my congratulations now." Then Burling says, No, I couldn't do that, and don't say anything yet. Not even to my mother. I know she'd be delighted. Again hinting at the fact that Lady Croft is not too pleased at the fact that Gerald is marrying Sheila, suggesting he could have done better for himself socially.